turn off all the lights, and get ready to never sleep again.
Is anyone playing the 48 game by Whispering Dark? Please read this. Does anyone else know how the 48 game ends? I'll say straight off that I'm not even sure if it's the right name for it, but it is what I've been calling it for reasons that'll soon become obvious. I guess the easiest thing here is to start at the beginning. Well, I mean, at the start of the game rather than the origin of the universe, or things are going to get even longer. I'm a writer, also a procrastinator, so I tend to have a lot of time where I do anything but what I actually should be doing. It actually started last year, before 2020 decided to throw its toys out of the pram. The game is tricky. You don't even know you're playing at first. Not until you're in too deep to get out. That was how it was for me. I always sit on the same bench. It's a thing in the UK. If someone sits on your bench or stands in your spot on the train platform, you quietly hate them to the grave. Luckily, my bench was free. Probably because it was pretty cold and anyone with sense was outdoors for as little time as possible. But I like to people watch. There was a note there, weighted down with a little rock, and because I'm nosy, I read it. It just said, "Put me in the trash," and at the bottom of it was the number 48 written in tiny numbers. The bin was right beside the bench, and I didn't want to toss it on the floor, so like a good citizen, I did what it said. I noticed there was a little envelope stuck to the back of the bin that just said, "Open me," with another 48 at the bottom. So I did, and inside was a little note saying, "Thanks," and pinned to it was a voucher for our local coffee shop. Like I said, the game is designed this way. Most people would have thrown the paper into the rubbish and would use the voucher. I did. I figured it was some sort of civic responsibility initiative, and plus, free coffee. When I handed over my voucher, the barista smiled and then gave me another envelope. In it was a voucher for our local restaurant. By now, I was convinced it was some sort of promotional thing, a weird ad campaign by our council to use local businesses, especially as the coffee shop seemed to be involved. So, I went to the restaurant. I wasn't entirely stupid. I did keep an eye out to make sure no one was waiting at the table in some sort of Criminal Minds situation. But everything went exactly as it should. There were no more envelopes, so I assumed that was the end of the promotion and went on with my life. It was weeks before the next envelope arrived. I had almost forgotten about the whole thing and the usual day-to-day grind. The next one freaked me out at first, as someone had slid it under my window screen wipers. Another voucher to another restaurant, but this one was out of town. I told one of my friends about it. He's a pretty sensible person, but didn't seem freaked out and even offered to go with me, safety in numbers and all that. He pointed out that this envelope didn't even have the number 48 on it, so this could just be another part of the same initiative, put onto several people's cars. I think both of us saw it as a little adventure, really. The writer and me thought it was good material, and my friend saw free food. It was when we arrived that things started to get weird. The restaurant was there, all right, but it was boarded up. There was no one around, and straight away we decided to nope out of there. I was creeped out thinking I might have gone alone, and started realizing how strange all of this actually was. I had decided that I was done with the odd little notes, filed it away in my writing material folder, and carried on as I always had. I found the next note 3 days later inside my house, on my kitchen table, and went straight to the police, as anyone with any sense really would. They actually took it pretty seriously, came to check my house, took the note in as evidence, and recommended some precautions I could take to keep myself safe. The first thing I did was change the locks. The police pointed out that often people don't think to do this, and you don't know who the previous owners gave keys to. Honestly, I couldn't really afford to put a security system in. They're pretty expensive. But I did get one of those Ring doorbells and checked it regularly. Nothing really happened, aside from getting to watch Yodel yeet one of my fragile parcels over the fence. I started to wonder if this was some screwed up ARG or something, started by someone without normal boundaries. Jump ahead 2 months. I was still a little wigged out over the whole thing, but again, had got caught up in deadlines and financial worries. Plus, there was a lot of talk about this potential virus far off in Asia. The next note was left in my front garden, in the middle of the path, and was straight to the point. You can't stop playing now. I checked the Ring doorbell straight away, but no one had come to my door, or even into my front garden. My mistake then was going back to the police. As soon as they saw the Ring doorbell footage, I'm pretty sure they figured I was doing this myself, as some sort of joke. They weren't quite as friendly and helpful that time, and mentioned wasting police time. The message was pretty clear. Don't come back unless you have actual evidence. The next thing that happened was an email I received. I didn't even pick it up for a few days, to be honest. Most of my communication is via WhatsApp or similar these days. I only really get junk email despite unsubscribing 30 times and maybe look at it once a week. This guy, calling himself Tom, said he had been told to contact me and tell me to visit a certain place. I, of course, figured it was the game organizer himself contacting me. I was tempted to go to the police again, but knew they wouldn't do much after last time. The address I was told to visit was a graveyard, and there was absolutely no chance I was doing it. Like I said, I watch Criminal Minds. I threw the note in the bin, filed the email in case they messaged again, and checked the Ring doorbell pretty often during the day. That night was probably where it all really began, as I woke up around 3 a.m. completely terrified. I knew straight away that there was someone in my room. I assumed at first that it was a murderer. I think most people would. That was until I saw the squat shadow crouching on top of my wardrobe with red eyes, just watching me. Now, I'm a skeptic. I'm scared of Bundy, not the restless dead. But there is some part of us that in that moment just accepts what we are looking at. Not that we won't question it later to try and reassure ourselves before we turn off the lights. But this thing wasn't and had never been human. Simple as that. It dropped a piece of paper on the floor and then it was gone. I wish it hadn't done that. It would have been easy to wake up the next day and mark it off as a weird dream. But the paper hadn't been there before, so there was no denying it. It had the same instruction as before, telling me to go to the graveyard. It is hard to describe the feeling the thing left me with, but I did not want it coming back, so, against my better judgment, I went to the cemetery. Long story short, too late. I've been playing for a while now. The game has never asked me to hurt anyone, to break in anywhere, or to in any way break the law. I mostly just had to visit odd places. Ever since my nocturnal visitor, all of these places had to be visited at night. They were all cold, lonely places on the edge of nowhere. Cemeteries, countryside houses, boarded up businesses. No one ever tried to hurt me either, though a few times I was convinced I might have a heart attack when I heard a noise nearby. I think if it had asked me to do something against my own moral code, I might have stopped anyway. I didn't think I could ever hurt an animal or a person, even if I might end up suffering myself. At least I didn't think so back then. The game is clever that way. It knows people's limits and never pushes you over them. If I'm being really honest here, even though I was creeped out by the whole thing, a part of me found these places interesting, in the same way some people like gothic novels or grave rubbings. It appealed on some level to that dark part of me that led me to watch things like Criminal Minds in the first place, or read No Sleep. That desire to be scared. It even respected lockdown, asking me to go out only once per day, and by then, even a scary old house was better than staring at the same four walls. Or worse, reading about my friends during lockdown who were running marathons or had learned 7 languages while I sat in my underwear, eating crisp. Things are weird now, though. I see shadow people a lot, lingering around my corridors, and at night, I sometimes hear scrabbling outside my bedroom door. I tried emailing Tom back, but the email won't go through. This worries me. I think that thing was a minion, and the master is somehow everywhere and nowhere, playing us like puppets. Before today, I have obeyed 46 instructions. One of Tom's was to keep me playing. I guess my role is to bring in some new players. I said that it knows you. It knows what interests you and draws you in with a simple instruction you're likely to follow. For example, me posting, "Please read this," at the top of the page. I'm sorry. If it makes you feel any better, I think the game is building to something, and the fact that it now has new players makes me disposable. The Hat Man has been watching me since yesterday, peeping around corners or tiptoeing behind me when I walk around the house in the dark. I'm expecting my 48th instruction soon. I doubt there will be 49th. Maybe I'll win some amazing prize, but I keep thinking of that scrabbling at my door. I think by playing, I've let something into this world. I think the game makes it stronger. Maybe by expanding its players, it is building its energy. It is 2020. This would be the year for monsters. Maybe it is an ARG, or sorts after all. You have time to try and figure this out. Time I wasted by procrastinating. Good luck. There was a postscript on my 47th instruction that I am to tell you here at the end. You have already obeyed your first instruction by reading this. The second is this: before you go to sleep, please turn off the light. Greetings, spoils and ghouls. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out. If you have a request or suggestion, make sure to leave them in the comment section below. We hope you enjoyed this video, and remember to stay spooky.